to Nabila Ramdani, a journalist who specialises on the Middle East, the biggest demonstrations in modern history in Egypt. Can you see any way that President Mubarak can cling on to power?
Well, it's very difficult to speculate on Mubarak's position at the moment, but what we have witnessed as the day went on are clear signs of concessions. He started, and desperation indeed, he started off by shutting down all forms of communications, as you highlighted, and that was a desperate move to suppress or be a hindrance for people to indeed mobilize and coordinate the movement on a larger scale and give the impression that things are under control. Later on, there were talks about the Prime Minister stepping down, and there were discussions about the formation of a new government, for instance. So that's another sign of weakness sent by the regime. And dare I say, the introduction of the army and the curfew later on in the day are also clear signs of weakness by the government. And the very fact that the demonstrators are determined to see profound political reform introduced in Egypt and defied the curfew is also a sign of weakness of the regime.
Plus the fact as well that the protesters seem to represent a whole cross-section of Egyptian society, not one particular group.
Absolutely. On January the 25th, which was dubbed Revolution Day in Egypt, the demonstrations were instigated by pro-democracy groups, but as the demonstrations went on the following days until today, we have seen wider sections of the Egyptian population represented with different groups, including the Muslim Brotherhood, now a part of the demonstrations, all sorts of activists and ordinary citizens just wanting to make their grievances heard and hoping for a genuine change.
Just looking at these pictures from today and hearing the words of US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton in the past hour or so, how troubled do you think will President Mubarak and his entire government be by the very marked change in tone from Hillary Clinton?
You are quite right to highlight the change in tone in from the Obama administration, precisely because Egypt is such a crucial country and is strategically placed in the heart of the Middle East. The Egyptian referred to it as Dunya, mother of the world, and the Obama administration is much more interested in the future of the Mubarak regime than it was in the deposed Tunisian regime, for example. So it is very crucial and very important indeed for the American to have stability in the region. And we are seeing signs of hypocrisy, dare I say, by the American administration, calling for the government to hear the voices from the people. The same administration was not exactly concerned by the grievances, socio-economic and indeed political grievances of the Egyptian people in the past. So we're seeing a definite change of tone here.
And yet, as well as the $1.3 billion that America pays Egypt each year, just in terms of military aid, they've also been pumping millions of dollars into through the US aid program, haven't they, to encourage democracy? I mean, has that been a thorn in the side of President Mubarak in recent years?
It has and it hasn't. Remember, President Mubarak was brought in 1981, and since then the state of emergency has been imposed in Egypt. So, all forms of expressions have been suppressed. So it's not an ideal context for the Egyptian people to. They're not exactly part of a democratic process, and they have been making very clear claims. They want an end of the state of emergency. They certainly do not want President Mubarak to run for the elections again in September, and they do not want his equally unpopular son to stand for the elections again, and they just want fairer elections where all sections of the population can be fairly represented.
Okay. Nabila Ramdani, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us this evening.
And of course, throughout